I'm not used to it because it's, you know, these guys are, and this is trigger for everybody.
Rajit sir, एक आपका solo.
They should take a t-shirt, you know, cap.
Yes.
Oh, there's a Manoranjan.
पीछे आ रही है इधर चला कर रही है. रजित सर यहाँ पर. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
दीप्ति मैम, एक आपका सोलो पीछे. थोड़ा एक स्टेप आगे.
No, I prefer.
Yeah, ma'am.
Photo bomb. I'm sorry, I'm also photo bombing.
दीप्ति मैम.
मुझे नहीं पता क्या यूज़ है.
मैं यहाँ पे राइट में. दो करेंगे तो दूसरी
Knowledge again, not so. I'm sure of that.
Good enough for this room. To my friends from media, thank you for being here. My name is Shudh. Super thrilled to be moderating this conversation. We, of course, all of us are here for the trailer launch of GOLDFISH. I had the privilege to watch this film, which is why I have lots of questions that I want to ask my panelists here, starting with, why do you have a face palm? You should be happy and beaming. He, of course, is Pushan Kripalani, the writer and director.
He's the goldfish.
He's the goldfish. And this is a very sensitively told film. At the core of it is a mother-daughter relationship. I'm not going to reveal much, but it has lots of layers. And we're going to unpeel, and details should bleed out a little bit. And so I also have Dilshad Khurana here. She's the head counselor with Empower Minds. Thank you. You're going to give us a different perspective and tell us all the other nuances that this film has. And here on my left are two amazing stars. So Deepti ji, you don't need an introduction. We all are fans. You know, whatever role you've been given, we've just been enthralled by your performance. And
even I'm a fan.
It goes without saying, but here, this was a very tough role, and you've done it so sensitively. Thank you for being here. It was a lovely performance. And Mr. Rajit Kapoor, you again, he has such an endearing role here in this film. I can't wait for all of you to watch it. But again, you were brilliant like you always are. And I said, for me, you go back to Venkatesh Bakshi. Okay, so last 5 minutes, I'll open it up for all of you. If you have any questions, note it down and remind me, and I'll make sure you get to ask your question. But till that time, I have them to myself, and I'm going to start with the writer-director. Please take this as a compliment when I say, is this autobiographical? Because just the intensity with which you've shown and dealt with something like mental health, aging parents, the dilemma of caregivers. How do you know it so well? What was the trigger to write this story, and what happened before you actually put pen to paper?
I can address this question in 2 parts. Oh, right. Sorry,
of course.
We forgot. Yes, it is partly personal and autobiographical. It actually, writing the film started from the final scene that you see in the picture. It's a little exchange between my grandmother and me. But everything else is imagined, and the conflicts are universal but imagined. However, writing the fact that it's people talk about dementia and it's based around that idea is simply the engine that drives the picture. It isn't actually the reason for the picture to be. The reason for the picture to be is the mother-daughter conflict and the resolutions that we attempt to arrive at, which are basically forgiveness, I think, and understanding.
And acceptance.
Acceptance, yes. Anger, denial, etc. All of this, and so I thought it would be relatable because if you chuck a stone in this room with all these lovely people, I don't think anybody has been unaffected by it. And it's going to be, I think, one of the greatest health crises we're going to see in the coming years. I know that you deal with this almost on a daily basis, and I don't know anybody who hasn't met somebody or been affected by what is essentially a loss of self. And so the idea of this picture was to find a self in other people, as if in some ways you are entrusting that which is you to a village almost and other people. So your identity lives with other people. That's a long and rambling answer to a short question. My apologies. It's been a long time since I've spoken about this. And it means much. And interestingly, it means much to people who watch it, which is more important to me. I hope that helps.
Of course it does. And to set context to this, this conversation, I would now like to bring in Dilshad. Dilshad, films have had a huge impact on on society in general. It tells us what's cool, what's trending. It helps us question the norms, question our own biases and prejudices. So films and filmmakers who have a voice and who want to say something, it becomes all the more important to champion such films and to celebrate such films. You are a mental health counselor, professional, and you've been dealing with this. When you watched the film, were there instances where you felt, oh my God, that's eerily real, I've dealt with situations like this?
So I actually haven't, unfortunately, had the privilege of watching this film, but I've scored myself an invite on the 25th, so I'm going to watch it soon.
But I want to tell you, it is a lot about what you deal with, about the awareness that Empower wants to spread.
Yes. So, coming to the first part of your question, yes, films, I think, as we're growing up and even later on, I think apart from our parents and siblings, I think films are the next big influence in all our lives, whether you are a movie buff or not, I mean, you can't escape it, and that's great. So I think hence, we need more films like this that talk about mental health, because sadly, so mental health, even though it's so prevalent and more so now post the COVID pandemic, people are still so afraid of talking about it, and rich, poor, young, old, doesn't matter. Everyone's still very mental equals to mad, that is still the number one thing that comes to your head, which is so unfortunate because it's so much more than that. So I think, yes, films really do need to talk more about it and encourage people to talk more about mental health issues, and of course then through that seek help. So, good job.
It's them.
It of course is them, and now coming to them. Deepti ji, I was reading one of your interviews and you said as an actor you always were looking forward to a role that changed something within you, and this film did that. Please talk to us a little about what you felt when you were portraying the character.
I must say that it took me back to my mother's condition a lot. I saw her very closely. I was able to spend time with her in her later years, when she was suffering from dementia as well as Alzheimer's. So, in one sentence, when Rajit over the phone told me what the film is about, and said that Pushan Kripalani is directing. He's Jen's son, and it's a mother-daughter story. Kalki's doing it, and who is this woman? She's this woman who is also suffering, who is mainly suffering from dementia. I think immediately I said, I'll do it. And I didn't ask for the script. I said, wo to aata rahega, theek hai. But the team is right. I get the sense that, things are in the right place somehow to begin with. And then when Pushan narrated the script to me, we were going over the script and we were discussing things. At that time, I think I was too close. I was just thinking of Mama all the time. I had to step back a little. He helped me with that. To step back a little bit and then approach it like an actor would, not get totally consumed by the fact that. So it was, it was cathartic for me. It was difficult, but it was. It gave me the opportunity what I was waiting for. I wanted to do a layered play, something which is layered, which is definitely which is intense. It wasn't meant to be maybe that intense a film. They wanted it to be lighter, but no way. But something intense, something layered, something complex. Little complex also. It's no fun playing a straight mom. अच्छी सी होती है जो माँ होती है हिंदी सिनेमा में. तो वो नहीं था तो I was very excited, super excited. So that's how I could approach it.
That's a lovely thing you said. In fact, you gave me a segue. This cinema, filmon ki maa. We've also made a trope, and you of course here you've done a phenomenal job. Rajit ji, coming to you. A very, very endearing character, and this film is as much in its dialogues, conversations, as it is in its silences. And with just brewing tea, you conveyed so much. How was it? What won you over about this script first? Because you're the one who called her and convinced her.
I think when Pushan was writing it only, he told me, I've already written a role for you and you have to do it. So that was already decided beforehand. So there was no question of not doing it. But the important thing was, as we were talking about it, the silent presence and the silent support is the way I looked at this character. So there may not be much to say, but in these kind of relationships, and when we are talking about mental health, that kind of support, which somewhere there is there, behind you. एक होता है ना पीठ थपथपाने के लिए कोई है.
Companionship, friendship.
Yeah, and it's there. You don't say it, but it's there, and that's the kind of presence I think this character kind of translates into on screen. He's almost like a catalyst, and as yesterday we were talking about it, and she said he's kind of the silent lover, but there's so much more to him. Just being that love is more compassion. That embodies itself through these scenes, particularly as you say in the silences. With both the women. So in that sense, I've been part of this project while he was writing it only. So, isn't it?
It's true.
Yeah.
Pushan, you want to talk about the omelette making and the tea brew?
Sure. Yeah.
Raju's very good at silences. Not in life. But on camera, he embodies it. There are some people who know how to inhabit a close-up without shouting about it. He and Deepti ji both understand the reductive power of the close-up very, very well. It's where a wink is a shout, and they understand what that is, and they understand that a tilt of the head, when you put it in an edit, means something, right? And that was incredible. And actually, if you have people that you have ended up casting, when Arya and I were writing the film, that's my co-writer and I writing the film, there was no other person who could play that part, absolutely. Because we felt supported by him even in the theatre and in life through our life. So we know that the man who has his hand on the small of your back going up the stairs is going to be Rajit Kapoor. That's easy. But what is also easy is if you cast it right. If you cast it right, it becomes almost boring to direct. Because what you have to do is basically offer them something, create an environment, which Amit sitting at the back was very good at doing, and let them be the best version of their performative selves. That's all you have to do. You have to offer a text, you have to offer a situation, and offer safety. And then they play. And we are here to watch that. That is why we're here. So it's kind of really easy.
No, that's very well put. And for those of you who haven't seen the film, of course they're brilliant. But I think every role has been written so nicely. Every individual has their own thread that runs beautifully, and you kind of are rooting for everyone. One of the things that really moved me about this film, dementia is a debilitating condition, not just for the person who has it, but more so for those around them, because they keep seeing the person they knew wither away slowly every minute. And here, what's really beautiful is the community, the sense of community, that we see in certain scenes. COVID is also a backdrop, and I think that was also the time when all of us, you, those in the room, understood what it meant to truly feel alone at times, or helpless, or not know what the future holds. How do you process? You've all gone through that. We're in a way still it lingers somewhere, and to then do a film like this. How did you comprehend that? I could probably start with you and.
I don't know where to begin, because suddenly when you started mentioning COVID and pandemic, I went, it was rewind. And then I thought of, 11 days of quarantine which had to be done. We had to shoot at this time. We had already postponed the shooting of the film once. It was to be in the month of January. We couldn't travel. We pushed it to June. And then I remember having a conference call with Amit and Pushan, and we said, now if we don't do it, it will never happen, or it may not happen. We have to do it. These are the dates now, quarantine or no quarantine. And in my case, I was quarantined for 11 days and then worked for 8 days. Then I came back. So my quarantine period was longer than my shooting period. The two ladies, the two women were also there, but they also had to go through the whole quarantine process. But I think on a general or a larger level, the pandemic definitely taught me about priorities. At least the focus of what is more important. Health, mental health definitely became a priority that, we take it for granted. It's like sometimes how we just take electricity for granted today. And then you're suddenly without electricity for a day and you're panicking. Because you just don't think about it. And I think the COVID made us think about health, mental health.
True.
Deepti ji, if you would want to add to that. No? I want to bring you into the discussion, because I'm sure during those months of COVID and even now you're still dealing with the aftermath. How has it been as a mental health professional? You must have been just, unable
Tough
to.
days.
Yes, tough days.
So actually, COVID, when it happened in March, right? And in April we launched our helpline. So the government of Maharashtra approached us and expedited our already in process plan of starting this helpline, and we started this 24/7 helpline, which was actually supposed to be just for Maharashtra, but I think word spread and became a nationwide helpline organically. And I remember we started in April 2020, and that month itself we got 35,000 calls. Yeah. And I managed the helpline, but I myself had to then, start taking calls, and it was crazy. I mean, I can't begin to tell you. It was all sorts of, people calling saying that they have lost their employment overnight, they've lost their businesses overnight, they're stranded. It still gives me goosebumps. They're away from their families, all sorts of things, and it was heart-wrenching. We're as professionals, we're a little detached and objective, but how can you and these were like back-to-back also. So the helpline was launched, and we were inundated with calls. So it was quite, and that lasted for a good 2 years, because then we had the second wave, but there was a whole lot of grief that was being talked about. So yeah, I'm just glad that we were there, like a small part, but we were there to help out. So that was pretty crazy.
And also why it's important to watch films like Goldfish, which deal with a subject which is still taboo, because we still don't want to openly say that, oh, I went to a shrink or I went to a therapist, because you're okay going to a physician, but somehow mental health or talking about it openly is always tough. And are we ready for the Goldfish trailer?
It's so funny that after I did Goldfish, I did another film called Pigeon, and that is also and that's also dealing with issues of mental health in a way, very surreal.
What is this connection?
Well, the pandemic is very weird because the pandemic did something strange. Because we all went through it, I think I'm right in saying this, I don't know, you guys are professionals, but because everybody went through it, there's some sort of disconnect between the individual experience, just because the whole planet went through it. But each trauma is individual. Each pain is solo. Do you know what I mean? And just because it happened, it's like a nuclear explosion. It doesn't matter that it happened to 140,000 people. The fact is, you have lost X, you have lost Y, you have lost Z. It's an individual problem, and your mental acumen or acuity in dealing with this is entirely personal. So this global event and this really tiny thing that happens to you, which is earth-shaking. That's kind of what the picture is about, in my limited opinion. Dementia is the engine.
Yeah.
The community is the force that helps. The problem, although cultural, is individual.
Yeah.
That's interesting to me. So that's what the film is about in some ways. The dementia is just the driving force of it. But it's that personality and that personality and that personality, those individuals that gather to create this whole that we have attempted to do here.
But what she was saying, about somebody losing everything, I didn't realize it until I started working after Goldfish on Pigeon. I said, it's a bizarre, very funny script. And then Bugs, who's my director, says, you know how much of pain there is in it? And that is such an underlying layer of these two individuals whom the film is about, because they gradually lose everything.
So you're only going to do animal-based films?
What to do? You offer Goldfish, then I get Pigeon, now tomorrow somebody will offer my monkey.
What is the connection of animal and COVID?
There seems to be some connection, I don't know. Maybe the animals are better off than we were.
I'm sure.
No, dolphins were definitely happy with humans. So I think, are we ready for the trailer now?
Shall we step out of the way? Let me see.
Yes.
I'm speaking to you from very sunny Spain, where I'm shooting a movie right now, and missing my team. It's Pushan and Deepti Naval and Amit, and really wishing I could be there for my trailer launch of Goldfish. Most happy that M-Powers is supporting us and also spreading awareness on mental health issues, and can't wait to share our trailer of Goldfish later today.
Yeah.
नहीं रोना क्या करा?
You're the director.
Happy mood is right.
Yeah. Sir, I'm here, both of you. Center over here.
इधर देखिए.
One more, yes, sir, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
We need the mic back.
Same mic actually. Yeah. ज़्यादा बात नहीं होती. Yes, I've been aware of this for a very long time because I did some work with the mentally disturbed women years ago, and I know because I lived. I'll just give you brief background. I went into the mental ward because I was working on a script. That's what took me there, and I went for 3 days. And I thought, thoda homework karke aa jaungi, but it made me stay there for 23 days because I just got, I just got involved with what was happening to the women there. I came across so many women. It was such a taboo. Treatment ho jata hai. you know, they are given a green chit, they are ready to go home, treatment हो गया, but family से कोई आ ही नहीं रहा लेने के लिए, because they don't want to. There's such a it has always been such a stigma to this कि family में कोई mentally ill है तो पता ना चले, घर में शादी नहीं होगी, कौन, you know, there's all kinds of things, implications are there. It's very complex, and it was very sad to see this. I've been trying to create some awareness about it by writing. That's the only way. I'm not an activist. I can only write it, and I've written it through my poetry a lot about the women that I encountered there. But this is only now I feel it's beginning to open up a bit. You know, people are feeling okay, little bit beginning to feel okay talking about it and saying, well, I've been feeling low, I went through depression, I'm going through, this kind of disturbance, and I need help. It was such a difficult thing to even acknowledge that I need help, because I don't mind, my head is not straight, I'm having trouble in my head, and so that has been my experience.
आपको लगता है कि महिला को सामने से आकर इस पर खुलकर बात करनी चाहिए?
बिल्कुल, और अब हो रही है, पहले भी हुई है, but it wasn't out in the open. It wasn't. I mean, there have been organizations who have been working towards this for a long time. It's not just कि अभी ये नई बात नहीं है, लेकिन अभी थोड़ा सा उसकी acceptance होने लगी है. People जिनकी family में कोई history नहीं है, कुछ नहीं है, they are also identifying their dark periods as periods of being mentally traumatized or disturbed, or तो उसमें फिर कई genetic चीजें आ जाती हैं, बहुत है. It's not just कि a situation disturbs you so you are going through depression. It's not just that. It's a medical thing also, which she'll be able to explain much better. लेकिन अब much better. I mean, I feel this is a good time to address these issues.
Absolutely.
And now we are open to it, and that's why a film like this could happen now and not earlier. Thanks to Pushan, I'm glad that he had this little history with his grandma. I had this little thing with my mother's reference, and somehow things got put together. I mean, it just has to happen at a time. Yeah. Any other question?
Thank you.
Hello, hi, this is Asta from Awesome TV. First of all, trailer looks quite promising, and I must say it has no filter. It's just so real. Everybody can relate to themselves. My question is to Deepti ma'am, that as you said that in your personal life also, you've seen dark phases, everybody sees. So how did you get over that? What were the tips you can give to people? What you have followed in person?
To be really honest, I think my writing and my painting has helped me stay afloat through those dark phases. I just tried to, I knew at that time that this was back when I was going through periods of, depression. This was back in the 90s, when it's the second half of the 90s. And at that time, I just didn't think कि मुझे psychiatric help लेना चाहिए या कुछ. I've been a student of abnormal psychology, which I studied in New York. One of my major subjects was that. So I was observing myself constantly, and I knew how I can deal with it is by expressing myself through any of my creative outlets, and that will help me. So I think वो एक तो आर्टिस्ट के साथ वैसे भी होता है, थोड़ा डार्क पीरियड आता है तो क्रिएटिविटी थोड़ी सरफेस कर जाती है ज़्यादा, because you use it. It happens both ways. You can consciously use it, or you unconsciously you become more productive in your creativity. So I think I was able to observe myself. I could see that I'm going down. I'm hitting rock bottom. Oh my God, you know what's going to happen now? And I knew that I had to pull myself up. So consciously and being constantly observing myself, I've been able to do that without medication, without clamoring for help, because I thought I'm in a position I could help other people, so why can't I help myself? So I think the awareness, the being conscious of where you're going, and you are sometimes people don't realize, we don't realize कि हम इतने डिप्रेशन में जा रहे हैं, हम पड़े हुए हैं एक जगह, हम कुछ काम नहीं कर पा रहे, कुछ हो नहीं रहा, everything seems like it's the end of the road. So I think being aware and working on yourself, you know, psyching yourself into feeling better and coming out of it.
May I add?
Can you, yeah.
You know, just to add to that, because I was dealing with my father's dementia before he passed away. I had to remind myself every day to be more patient. Because in the beginning, I used to lose my cool with him. And when you're talking to somebody like that 6-7 times a day, across 2 cities and just on the phone, it became very difficult. I had to tell myself I have to be more patient and more compassionate. Because I wouldn't know when he would be switching gears. In dementia, sometimes a person will give you proper accounting ka hisab, and the next 5 minutes would be something else. So you can't judge, you know. So you have to remind yourself that I have to understand this and be patient and tolerant.
So you have a question?
My name is Siraj Syed. I am the India correspondent for filmfestivals.com. The question is addressed to the expert. Not many people, in fact a very small number of people are aware of the fact that we know least about the brain. Of all the human organs, I think we know just about 10% of how the brain functions. And the problems and diseases associated with it, most of them are incurable. Or addictive, or subject to one last stage where they give you electric shocks in the hope that you might improve. So family, friends and colleagues play an extremely important part in nursing, in a way, a mentally challenged or a mentally disturbed person to normalcy. And we just heard this example from Rajit. I wonder what can be done to make people realize. We know everything about the heart. You know, we can transplant it, we can do so many things, but we know very little about the brain. So your views on that?
You're absolutely right. So the brain is, I mean, even psychologists are always doing more and more research on the brain to find out more and more. So I think it's always in process, the study of the brain. But I think that is also where the stigma comes from about mental health, because you know so little. So, you know, you hear, so I think it's like a cycle, and I think to answer one of your questions, what we can do about it is raise awareness, right? When you talk about mental health, and kudos to this film to have done that, you know, to collaborate with Empower and talk about mental health. When you talk about it more is how you can then normalize it, then you can get to know more, you learn more. You know, like ma'am was saying, you know, she was aware of what was happening to her, like Raju said. And caregiver burnout is also something very real. It's also something that, you know, we deal with in mental health. Because it's not tough, it is tough being a caregiver as well. So I think the first thing is to start bringing out awareness. Like for example, it's not incurable. You know, mental health issues do have a cure. I mean, some might need lifelong medication. Some might need just a month with your therapist. So again, it's like physical health, right? I mean, sometimes you just need like 5 tablets, and sometimes you need like a lifelong of BP medicine or something like that. So it is like that. So I think just talking about it and being more aware will then help people learn about it more and be able to express themselves, and most importantly get help when it is necessary.
Thanks. Throw this at you. Thank you.
मैम हाय एज यू सेड दैट कि मेंटल हेल्थ में हम जैसे मेडिसिन लेते हैं फिर कुछ प्रोसेस होता है जो सफ़र करते हैं बट nowadays children are also facing that stage that depression तो क्या कहना चाहेंगे how we should identify that कि they are suffering from this kind of issues और parents क्या करेंगे उस चीज़ को लेके क्योंकि हम बात children are not expressive right so what are the tips or that parents should follow?
Mic.
The journey of the mic back to back here.
So yes, very right. बच्चों को भी mental health issues हो सकते हैं. First of all, as parents, उसे टालना बंद करना चाहिए. Okay, not कि नहीं ये तो होता है ठीक हो जाएगा तुझे थोड़ी ना प्रॉब्लम है you know those are very common things that we keep hearing. I remember I was consulting with the hospital once and एक बच्चे का मतलब he was a little older but he wanted to take appointments with me only when his father was not in town because his father would shout at him for seeing a therapist. So you know that is तो yes बच्चों को भी and जैसे आप बोल रहे हो बच्चे expressive नहीं होते but in a way expressive होते हैं you know a child can also feel sad and not want to go out with their friends which means the child is also probably going through depression. So parents just need to be aware and accepting कि मतलब कुछ मेरे बच्चे के साथ भी हो सकता है and maybe I need to take the child to a therapist. You know there's nothing wrong in that. So I think again acceptance is the first thing and then you know just looking out for those signs when a child is behaving not badly sorry but when a child is say acting out बहुत गुस्सा हो रहा है for example बच्चे tantrum throw करते हैं but you know at some point of time there is a line between you know acting out and throwing a tantrum so I think just awareness and I always say when in doubt you know just go take help you know let the therapist tell you कि नहीं ये normal है but it's okay.
One last question.
Hi, my name is Videsh, and I was fortunate enough to edit the trailer of this film. So I've seen the film twice, and I've cried like a small baby. So I know how great the film is, and I want to congratulate the director and the team for putting up a really great film. And I really wish that it does a really nice success in the theaters. My question to Pushpan is, there's a rawness in the music and the sound of the film, which is very interesting, and I want to know how it's helping film have a better visual experience.
I need a better question. I didn't quite understand it.
The music is very raw.
Yes.
There are silences in the film, and
Yes.
there are like CD players, and you use the classical music.
Yeah.
I want to know how is it helping the film, and how is it used? I mean,
can answer that
silences
question.
and the music.
That I can answer. Thank you. First of all, thank you for watching it twice. That's well done there. The thing about the music in the film is it's diegetic. That term means it's not background music. It's always either played on the television or it's played on the cassette player or someone singing it live, right? At no point do we have background music to tell the audience how to feel. Somehow that's not my job. Directors try to do this constantly. They give you violins and drums and tell you how to feel. My job is to present a situation. It is not, it is it would be rude of me to attempt to influence your mood based on that. I'm trying to push the form towards that idea. I think just because we have music in the world, we've decided that this is how we're going to use it in film. You know, that's really what it is. And then I know exactly what my response should be. And really, when you make a film about the human condition, which these guys have crafted so finely, right? I think that I would rather leave judgment, feeling, an intellectual response, an emotional response to people like you who have taken the trouble to watch the film. So although sometimes in a very difficult situation, a very lively song is playing on the tape deck, so it offers a counterpoint to the emotional content of the scene, which has a third layer for you. So that's quite interesting. So we're not watching Mickey Mouse anymore. We're all grown up. You know, it doesn't have to go ting 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 ting. It doesn't have to do that, right? So you could be listening to something very cheerful, and your dog could be dying. You know, for what it's worth, right? It could happen.
Yeah.
You know, you're driving around, you have a terrible crash, and Kishore Kumar is very happy on the stereo system, and that actually creates an interesting drama between the visual, the emotional, and the music. There's a tension, and that tension is where we live as filmmakers, and we like it. You're a filmmaker, you know what you mean. There you go. Is that useful?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Any more questions?
Thank you.
Oh yes, go ahead.
One last question.
You don't? Right, go for it.
Okay.
So my question is, what inspired you to write and portray a mother-daughter bond on screen?
The gender is not useful to me. The relationship is.
Yeah, so what inspired you to portray that relationship?
What inspired me to do it? I think a lot, one of the reasons was that there's a cliche about what mothers are like. And I think there's a cliche about what relationships are like. You know, and I think we have many directors and filmmakers in a long and varied history to thank for that particular cliche, which turns into memes, which turns into expectation. And those films do wonderfully well, and they're wonderful films in their own right, but they never examine the human condition at all. In fact, one of our first meetings, Deepti ji herself, who was very erudite, very interesting, said, how can this woman be an artist, a mum from India, and be as cruel as she is to her daughter? Remember that? We talked about that. I said, and for me it was like, which garden did you grow up in? You know what I mean? And it was like, and that's when I felt that we could have a real friendship, because I felt I could bring stuff from other people's experiences that I've heard of. My mom's great, but like, there are other people who have really difficult relationships. Clearly you do. So that kind of helps, because people are complicated and complex. And I think that just because you are a mother, that doesn't necessarily mean that you suddenly are some sort of Ganga Jal mein dhula tulsi ka patta. You know what I mean? It doesn't happen. And just because you're a daughter, there are a series of expectations, but that doesn't mean you normally behave that way. You behave according to your individual impetus for that moment. And very important things happen in an instant. And those are either based on fear, cruelty, or love. Those are basically fear and love. And this film is about trying to take the position that love is a considered response and not an instinctive one. And so I just thought also women are much more fun to work with than I mean, they're just open and interesting and interested. You know, the men are idiotic, as we have seen. I hope that helps.
Yeah, thank you.
On that note, thank you everyone for being here.